Um, First, we would like to recognize the history, strengths, and diversity of Canada's First Nations, Inuit, and Métis community. At the Ontario Centre of Excellence for Child and Youth Mental Health, we are committed to engaging respectfully with Indigenous children, young people, and families within across nations in what is known as Ontario. The city in which I stand, work, study, live is the traditional ancestral territory of the Algonquin Nation. We invite you to please share with us wherever you're joining us from today in the chat. If you do not know of where you're standing in terms of Indigenous lands, we encourage you to seek and look for this knowledge as it is valuable in terms of our commitment to anti-oppression and reconciliation within Indigenous peoples in Canada. Um, I, my name is Camille Santa Fe, and I'm a youth advisor at the Ontario Centre of Excellence for Child and Youth Mental Health. The Ontario Centre of Excellence for Child and Youth Mental Health brings people and knowledge together to strengthen mental health, um, in their care, and implementing high quality child and youth mental health services that ensures the best outcomes for children, youth, and their families. We do this by working together with young people and families as stakeholders to mobilize evidence that we know that works in key areas of child and youth mental health, such as primary care, youth and family engagement, digital e-mental health, and system initiatives. Um, Today's objectives for this session will be to provide an overview of intersectionality. What is it? How intersectionality plays a role in peer support. Understand the value of working of your differences and those of your peers and working along with those, and learning how to support your peer through a crisis. Before we jump into the video that talks about supporting your peers into a crisis, there will be a trigger warning. And as Haruki mentioned, if you do need support throughout this video, please reach out to us to the chat or reach out to the numbers that are outlined at the corner of your screen.
We're all different from one another. As a youth peer supporter, it's important for you to respect and work well with people who are different from you, and even value all the ways that people are different. Feeling comfortable and equipped to work in partnership with people who are different from you is a skill that needs to be learned, practiced, and regularly reflected upon. Here are a few tips that may help you as you learn and grow. As a youth peer supporter, it's important for you to remember that it's impossible to know everything about someone just by looking at them, or making guesses about how they might understand or respond to something based on what you can see. Think of it like an iceberg. No two icebergs are exactly the same, and we can typically only see the tip of the iceberg above the surface, which means that most of the iceberg is invisible beneath the water. When it comes to people, there are some noticeable ways that we differ, such as skin color, language, and clothing. But there are also many characteristics and experiences that make up who we are that are invisible, such as our values, spiritual beliefs, goals, skills, and gender orientation. Keep in mind that there's more to diversity than meets the eye. It's important for you to take time to look beneath the surface so you can really learn about and support your peer. A little bit of self-reflection goes a long way when working across differences. We all have multiple and overlapping identities, such as our gender, sexuality, ability, race, and class. These identities make up who we are and shape how we see and experience the world. By reflecting on your personal identities, you can be mindful of what you bring with you to the peer support relationship. It's also important to acknowledge and respect that your peer likely brings something different. You also need to reflect on your past, including things you've experienced and how those experiences have affected you. It's particularly important for you to reflect on any experiences you've had with stereotypes, prejudice, discrimination, and oppression. Stereotypes are generalizations made about a group of people without respect for individual differences. For example, assuming that all teenagers are messy is a stereotype. Stereotypes often come from our own biases, whether we're aware of them or not. Prejudices are the conscious or unconscious beliefs we might have about someone simply because they belong to a certain group. An example of prejudice is not liking someone because they don't share your religion. Discrimination is when someone acts on a prejudice to deny the rights, opportunities, or resources to someone because of their membership in a group. Some examples include racism, homophobia, ableism, ageism, and sexism. Finally, oppression occurs when many acts of discrimination are carried out against a group over time. Remembering where you've come from will help you reflect on how your experiences have impacted you and shaped you to the person you are today. It'll also allow you to be mindful of how your past experiences might impact the peer you're supporting, as well as the support they want or need to receive. Last but not least, it's important for you to be mindful of your power and privilege. Peer support is often considered a more balanced relationship than the traditional helping relationships, which can be hierarchical, where one person has more power and control than the other. But there can still be an imbalance of power and privilege, particularly if you're in a paid peer support position. This isn't your fault, and it's not necessarily bad. It's just something to be aware of because it can influence your relationship. Because of this, you should avoid engaging in a sexual or romantic relationship with the peer you're supporting, as this can confuse your role in their life and get in the way of the support you're providing. Remember, we're all different. As a youth peer supporter, you need to keep an open mind, accept differences, and value the person you're supporting. Treat your peer with kindness, warmth, respect, and dignity, just like you'd want in return. Thanks for watching. Up next, supporting your peer through a crisis. This
In this next video, we're going to provide you an overview on how to support someone who is considering suicide, and we'll talk about the importance of breaking the codes of silence around this and around suicide. Um, Thank you, Ruka.
this video this video explores how to support someone who's going through a tough time, which includes talking about thoughts of suicide. If you feel triggered at any point while watching this video, check out this resource for support. We all go through tough times in life. In moments of crisis, your peer may reach out to you when they feel overwhelmed. It's important for you to try to stay calm and find ways to comfort them. Be present. Listen and encourage your peer to seek additional support if the situation doesn't seem to be getting better. Here are a few other considerations to keep in mind. As a youth peer supporter, it's important to be aware of triggers, both your own and those of your peer. Triggers are personal and can be anything: a sight, sound, smell, taste, or feeling that sets off a memory or flashback that takes you right back to the original experience or trauma with the same feelings and intensity. When you're aware of your triggers, you can avoid situations and things that are associated with them, or learn strategies to manage them, such as finding ways to distract, refocus, and bring yourself back to that present moment. For example, some people find that counting exercises, deep breathing exercises, or having a physical object to hold on to, like a stone or a coin, can help you feel grounded and calm. Reflecting on your triggers can help you take care of yourself and set appropriate boundaries, and being mindful of your peer's triggers can help you provide the best support possible. This includes using trigger warnings when you're about to talk about sensitive topics. That way, your peer can decide whether they want, or are ready, to talk about that subject at the time. You may find yourself in a situation where your peer tells you that they're thinking about suicide or self-harm. They might share that they're feeling hopeless, talk about death or dying, or say that they want to die. They may even tell you that they have a detailed plan for how and when they want to hurt themselves. On the other hand, they may not say anything, but you might notice some alarming changes. For example, it might seem that they're losing interest in activities they used to enjoy, or you might see clear differences in their personality or behavior, like riskier behavior than normal. It's important for you to know how to respond if your peer seems to be considering suicide. Ask your peer directly if they're thinking about suicide. Being direct and talking about suicide won't make them hurt themselves, but it can provide your peer with a sense of relief that they finally have someone to talk to. If your peer says yes, reach out to an adult they trust and together come up with a plan for how to keep your peer safe, which may include calling 911. Try to avoid leaving your peer alone. If you can, continue to talk to them and support them while they're receiving help. Check out this video for other tips. As a youth peer supporter, you'll often have access to private information about your peer, such as their personal contact information, medical history, or substance use. It's important that you keep this information to yourself. Of course, there are limits to this privacy, and it's important to remember that there may be times when you need to break confidentiality, like when your peer or someone else is in danger. If your peer expresses that they want to hurt themselves or someone else, you must tell someone. This is not an easy thing to do, so we asked some youth peer supporters for their tips. Here's what they said. Discuss the limits of confidentiality at the very beginning of your peer support relationship. Let your peer know that you'll have to speak up if you're concerned about their safety. Use this time to ask who their trusted adults are, so you'll know who to call in case of a crisis. Make sure this person has the understanding, skills, and training to keep your peer safe. Your peer might also turn to you for support after losing someone. It's important to remember that grief is a complicated process, and people grieve in different ways and at different times. There's no right or wrong way to grieve, and there's no time limit either. You can show your support in a few different ways. Listen to your peer and ask questions that encourage them to talk about their loss and grief. Remind your peer that you care and you're there to support them. Respect their wishes if they tell you they need space, but let them know that you'll be there when they're ready. Connect your peer to other resources in the community. Grief counselors and support groups can also help your peer deal with a loss. Keep in mind that these videos are just the beginning. We strongly encourage you to seek specific training on this topic. Check out these options to start. And remember, you're not alone in supporting your peer. Reach out for the help you need. Thanks for watching. Up next, taking care.
Awesome. So thank you everybody for joining and for listening, watching in the videos. Now we are going to start the open space, which it works given the amount of time that we have, we'll provide a safe space where we can discuss and reflect the content of these videos. Um, the rules of it is everybody can participate. You can share your answer perspective through the chat or through speaking through your microphone if you feel comfortable. This is a safer and brave space, which means that your lived experience are valid, they're powerful, and they are respected. When the conversation is over, it is over. So the first part of it that we're going to talk about, and the first video is the working across differences. Now that we watched this video, we know that we are all unique and while we share live experiences, while peer support, unique ingredient is to share live experiences, it is important to understand and value that the many ways in which we are different and incorporating this understanding into our practice of peer support. So please feel free to share in the answers in the chat or do this on your own with a notepad and your pen or your iPad or your computer or any device that you may have at hand, or just self-reflect these questions. At any time were there any of these concepts new to you, such as like stereotypes or prejudice, discrimination, oppression, power, or privilege? Was these were these descriptions reflective of your knowledge? Um, did you thought that these descriptions were um, something easy to understand rather than like trying to figure it out from the dictionary and the extensive description of it? Was this information digestible? Um, do you have any personal experiences with these issues that you would like to share? And when we ask you that you would like to share is with your paper or with your computer, or whatever you're taking notes, or do you want to share this with your peers? But this is something that you would like to ask for support and you will consider important for your peer to understand and be able to support you. And what are some privileges you may have experienced? Um, I can give you an example. I we often come with biases, and it's not easy to control them. We are wired in this way. Um, and sometimes, whenever things are being shared, we must listen actively. Not all the time we can listen actively. And um, the privilege that I have had in these circumstances, in these situations, is that I have been able to say or put limits into the conversation and say, I don't know this part or certain pieces of it. I don't have the whole context. I will need the whole context. Whereas other people in the same role as peer supporters may don't have the same privilege to say, please share this, or I need more context. They're just receiving all of this information at the same time. There are multiple settings for peer support, such as the ER, such as the emergency rooms, such as community centers, such as um, employment services. I do get that chance to put boundaries and ask more questions, whereas other people don't have those limitations or that privilege to ask more questions. And the last questions for this video is like, how can understanding these issues strengthen your peer support practice? How do you think this will actually make it stronger, the connection that you will have with your peer? Would you be able to support them better in a better way? Thank you, Sandy Chicks. I certainly privileged to have you joining us today. Hear your perspective. And I'm certainly privileged being able not to laugh at your name while I'm reading your comment. It is magical. But yes, a lot of information over the last couple of years have been adapted to youth populations so they be able to support their peers along the way. And through different circumstances and situations. And not many young people know about these resources as much as I would like to just share it everywhere possible. There is multiple venues where this information is not being received or not being shared. Find Dutchman, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, or your username. Uh, Number four is understanding how different intersecting identities impacts people experiences with mental health or accessing mental health care. Yes, that's actually really true. Um, totally agree with you. And Plankton, knowing that you share in common what you don't share in common relating to oppression and privilege is really important in being transparent with your peer. Be honest about the things you aren't familiar with or the things that you cannot offer support for. That's true. Being direct about your knowledge and about your experience makes a difference. Um, Also, it allows for conversation to fluid and learn from your peer. We know from the first video, that in the first session, that peer support is a mutual and beneficial relationship where we both get to learn from our peers and they get to learn from ourselves as we both navigate the wellness journey to recovery. Next, we're going to talk about supporting your peer guys.
Well, I think some of us are still typing. The last slide. Thanks, Camille.
Earth. Like I am wired up because these topics are amazing, and I think it comes in hand that um, as we are living and experiencing um, different ways this pandemic and social distancing as well, the way that we are interacting with one another, recognizing the differences that we have with others and how to work this out is really important, right? And to be able to have this knowledge received through a cartoon is like pretty cool. So Snell shared with us that Plankton's point, keeping in mind what you cannot or can offer support for base of your physical and mental capacity. If you can mentally handle something versus if you don't have enough knowledge to support. That's actually true. And that's where the ongoing learning, um, which is going to be a video in the future, is going to address. And Jay just shared with us that's very good point is now. Um, being mindful of your own limitations with working with your peer is really important. Now, next, supporting your peer through a crisis. We'll know that we all go through crisis like the video share. Um, nobody gets away with it, right? Like, um, please let us know on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling right now after watching this video? Um, I can share with you, I am feeling on a solid 3.5. Uh, whoa, Plankton about 7. This is awesome. 5. Oh my God, yes, Plankton is out of 5. 1 to 5. Um, so yes, it's I'm feeling like a 3.5 just because it's a lot of knowledge to process, and we'll invite you to review these videos or rewatch the videos whenever you have the time to. And also, we are limited of time to process these questions. It's also 5 o'clock, almost 5 o'clock, so it's a lot. But I'm happy that I received this knowledge, and I'm hearing from people 3.5, as well, a 4, a 3.5 as well. And I understand that many of us have multiple responsibilities, and joining this video is and joining this session is wonderful, and it's a privilege for us to have you. And we wanted to ask you this question just to make sure that you're feeling comfortable and safe. And given that we will leave you for a week, we want you to come back and be able to ask for support whenever you are needed, as we have mentioned many times throughout this session. So the question is number 111, because they all connect one another. I noticed that it's not a mistake, it's just a series of ones. And this happens a lot when we're supporting our peers in crisis. One question will be related to the next ones. It's not just multiple questions about different things. While you're supporting your peer to crisis, you will focus on that. At the moment, reach out to your adult allies or an adult that can support and look out for a plan that is supportive of your well-being and the well-being of your peer. Review the limits of your confidentiality and why you must tell someone if you peers or someone is in danger. This is very important. So talk to your peer or that person you're supporting and let them know. Please be aware that if at any moment you are feeling triggered or you are feeling in these certain ways, I will need to call for support. Another person that can support two of us while we're navigating this situation. Um, could be a crisis as extensive as we watch it in the video as harm to themselves or harm to other, or it could be something that you don't know how to support you and you don't want to commit a mistake, right? While you're supporting. Why is it important to consider your own triggers before supporting someone in crisis? And you can feel free to support. like answer this in the chat. Um, an easy way to put it is you want to be able to be there for that person while you're supporting them, right? Um, and also to take care of yourself. In future videos, we're going to watch how to create a self-care tip sheet or a self-care planning list, and how to follow through those things. And last but not least, who are the trusted adults or people you can turn to for support? Is it a family member? Is it a friend in the community? Is there a person that you have access services for or with in the past? Will that will that person be available to support you and your peer whenever you need assistance? Those are things to think through when thinking about supporting your peer. Um, this is not going to happen all the time, and hopefully it don't happen all the time. But these are important things to keep in mind whenever you are reaching out to support someone, or somebody is reaching out to you to ask for support. Find attachment is sharing with us emotional safety. Important to consider your own triggers so that we can create boundaries and keep ourselves safe. Yes, totally. 100%. And I'm just looking through the rest of the comments. Um, Yes, we'll invite you to continue reflecting on those areas. You can find these videos online, YouTube to be more specific, and reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns. No worries, no name. We're here for you. And next week, we're going to talk about taking care of yourselves, some self-care tips, making connections within your community and your adult allies and community box. And yeah, it's gonna be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Camille, for another great session for our series for youth Pillars of Youth Peer Support. I just wanted to share again. I know this session included content that might not have been easy to hear. It might bring up some challenging thoughts, and we don't want you feeling triggered. And so, if you are finding that you need support, I will share the link again in the chat. Feel free to access any of the resources that are on there, and just make sure to take care of yourself. And I know we're learning about that next week, but if you have any coping strategies that you can go to, or just spend time spending going outside, I don't know, I'm trying to think of ideas right now, but I am blanking myself, so I should probably do some self-care too. But thank you everyone for joining us, and we will all see you next week. Bye everyone.